Hi class, in lesson 4.7 we will be dividing decimals. Learning targets for today will be estimating quotients of division of decimals and dividing with decimals. We will not only be taking a look at decimals in the divisor, but we will also have decimals in our dividend as well. Let's take a look at problem 1 on page 290. It says you can use hundredths grids to model dividing decimals. Let's consider 3 and 57 hundredths divided by 3. The first thing that we want to do is represent 3 and 57 hundredths. So we're going to shade 3 hundredths grids to represent 3, 5 columns in the fourth grid to represent 5 tenths, and then shade 7 more squares in the fourth grid to represent 7 hundredths. The next thing we are going to do then is divide the shaded model into 3 equal groups. That is what we are dividing by. So to do this, we divide the 3 hundredths grid into 3 equal groups. Then we divide the 57 hundredths into 3 equal groups. So you can see when we do that, one whole grid and 19 small squares are in each group. So therefore 3 and 57 hundredths divided by 3 is going to give you 1 and 19 hundredths for your quotient. Let's turn to the top of page 291 and now consider 3 and 9 tenths divided by 1 and 3 tenths. So now we have a decimal as our divisor. The first thing that we want to do is shade 3 tenths grids and 9 columns of a fourth grid to represent the 3 and 9 tenths. Then we want to divide the grids and tenths into equal groups of 1 and 3 tenths. You can see that when we do that, there are 3 equal groups with 1 and 3 tenths inside of each. So 3 and 9 tenths divided by 1 and 3 tenths is going to be 3. Take a look at number 1 on the bottom of page 291. Tracy thought that if 39 divided by 13 is going to be equal to 3, and 3 and 9 tenths divided by 1 and 3 tenths is going to be equal to 3, there must be a relationship. What do you think? And explain your reasoning. So go ahead and talk about that with your group members. I'll give you a couple minutes. If we look at Tracy's thinking, this is what you and your group members should have come up with. The dividend and divisor in the first division sentence are 10 times greater than the dividend and divisor in that second division sentence. Because both the dividend and divisor are multiples of the same number, the quotient is not going to change. Let's turn to page 292 and take a look at the problem situation. You want to buy ribbon to make track medallions. You find a website that sells 4.8 meters of red, white, and blue striped ribbon for $20.16, or 7.2 meters of blue ribbon for $30.60. To compare the costs, you need to calculate the price for 1 meter of ribbon for both prices. First, rewrite the decimal numbers as mixed numbers, then rewrite the mixed numbers as improper fractions, and finally divide the improper fraction and make sure that you put your answer in decimal form. Take a look at our helper and the word bubble. It says, remember, when you are dividing fractions, you're going to rewrite the division sentence as a multiplication sentence and convert the divisor to its reciprocal. So keep that in mind as you are working through these problems. If you take a look at the example, they have the striped ribbon for $20.16 and 4.8 meters. They have that work that is done for you. So again, they converted the decimals into mixed numbers, which you can see right here. And then they went ahead and converted those mixed numbers into an improper fraction. Here is the reciprocal step that they are talking about. If you have 2016 over 100 divided by 48 over 10, that would be the same as 2016 over 100 times 10 over 48. 4 and 20 hundredths is the answer as a mixed number, and like it said in the directions, make sure to put your answer back into decimal form. And again, we're dealing with money, so this would be $4.20 per meter of the red, white, and blue striped ribbon. So let's take a look at number 2 then. It says to use that same method in order to divide 30.60 by 7.2, and go ahead then after you're done with that and do number 3 as well. Based on your results, which type of ribbon is going to be the better or cheaper buy, and make sure that you explain your answer. Let's go ahead and take a look at what you did for number 2. I have 30.60 divided by 7.2. I convert both of those decimals into a mixed number, which I see right here. I convert both of those mixed numbers into improper fractions in this step right here. And in this step right here, I am then multiplying by the reciprocal. Finally, I take my improper fraction, convert it back into a mixed number. In simplest form, my mixed number is 4 and 25 hundredths, which I can turn back into decimal form. It would be $4.25 per meter. So based off of both answers then, you can see that the striped ribbon is going to be the better buy because it is going to cost less money per meter, $4.20 compared to the $4.25. Let's turn to the top of page 293. Take a look at what it says up at the top of the page. Very, very important when you are dividing with decimals. It says that if you multiply both the dividend and the divisor by the same number, the quotient is going to remain unchanged. This goes back to Tracy's thinking back at the beginning of the lesson. Let's take a look at the example that they have for us so we can better understand that rule. So you can see in the example we have 12 divided by 3 equals 4. If we would multiply both the divisor and the dividend by 10, 12 times 10 divided by 3 times 10, 120 divided by 30, you are still going to get 4 for your answer. Same thing in that third example, 12 times 100 divided by 3 times 100, you are still going to get 4 for your quotient. The quotient is going to remain the same because you are dividing by a form of 1, like our helper talks about in the word bubble. So we can use this information to change any divisor into a whole number to make the division of a decimal easier to solve. I want you to kind of think of this rule. We never want to have any decimals in our divisor. So in order for that to happen, all we need to do is multiply both numbers, the divisor and the dividend, by the least power of 10. That is going to make the divisor into a whole number. Then we can divide with whole numbers, which will make it a lot easier for us. So look at the example that they give us, 7.56 divided by 3.6. If we would multiply both the divisor and the dividend by 10, it is going to give us a divisor of 36. So our divisor is now a whole number. When we move that decimal point over in the divisor, we move it over one spot in the dividend as well. So our new dividend is 75.6. Now we can just carry out the traditional division that we were working on in lesson 4.6. Let's skip all the way over to page 295 and take a look at number 9 down at the bottom. In number 9, first it says to estimate the quotients for each expression shown and make sure that you are showing your work. So you're going to go ahead and do letters A through F. And let's take a look at letter G. After you are done estimating, then I want you to divide each problem. And again, we're going to use that traditional method. Remember, we don't want to have any decimals in our divisor. Notice that I did cross off using your calculator that part of the directions. So I want you to divide each problem, round your answers to the nearest thousandth, and then you can obviously compare your estimates to the actual calculations that you came up with. If you don't have enough room on page 295 to show your work, then use a separate sheet of paper. But go ahead and do A through F. First come up with your estimate and then divide each problem, rounding your answers to the nearest thousandth. Let's take a look at letter A. First, my estimate is going to be 8. 8 divided by 1 is going to be equal to 8. Here is what my division problem would look like. Remember, I do not want any decimals in my divisor, so I'm going to multiply both the divisor and the dividend by 10. So my new divisor is going to be 8, and my new dividend is going to be 75. Remember, I can put the decimal point right up in the quotient in order to carry out my division. I'm going to add 3 zeros because it tells me to round my answers to the nearest thousandth, and I'm going to go ahead and carry out my division. When I go ahead and carry out my division, you can see 8 goes into 75 9 times. When I subtract, I get 3. I bring down my 0. 8 goes into 33 times. When I subtract, I get 6. Bring down a 0. 8 goes into 67 times. When I subtract, I get 4. Bring down my 0, and 8 goes into 45 times. This is a terminating decimal, rounded to the nearest thousandth. So my answer is 9 375 thousandths. Here is what the rest of your answers should look like. I went through and showed all of the work for letter A. That is what you should have been doing for B through F. For letter B, my estimate is 4, and my answer is 4 274 thousandths. For letter C, my estimate is 5, and my answer is 62. For letter D, my estimate is 20. My answer is 23. For letter E, my estimate is 50. My answer is 41. And for letter F, my estimate is 3/10, and my answer is 296 thousandths. Big thing to remember from today is that we do not want to have any decimals in our divisor. So we need to make sure that we move that decimal point over in the divisor and in the dividend as well when we multiply by a form of 10. If you have any questions on dividing decimals from 4.7, please feel free to ask. That's it for today. Thanks.